by the end of the first semester in January 2023. So that was what we were aiming for. Next slide. So here's our roadmap. We delineated 4 strategies with a number of related tactics. The first was this, based on national trends and BSD data indicating absenteeism is greater among kindergarten and high school students, we'll develop a differentiated messaging campaign that speaks to both the student and parent groups in particular. So what does that mean? Well, we did our campaign in 2 phases. So phase 1 ran from the beginning of August through the first day of school, and it focused on kindergarten parents because, as we all know, most of our kindy parents are paying attention and really engaged in those couple of weeks leading up to the first day of school. So all of our posts on Parent Square, which is the communication platform that we use in our district, and on our social media accounts, focused on the importance of kindy attendance. Next slide. So this is an example of a video that was produced particularly for kindy parents, and I want to show it to you, and then we'll talk a little bit about how it came to be.
Giving your child motivation to get up and start their day nice and happy.
Wake them up on time.
Pack up their lunch in their bag.
When I was in kindergarten, my mom would set out my clothes before I went to bed, and she would let me know what I was wearing so that I wasn't panicking in the morning.
Also have them wanting to go to the school, because if they don't want to go, it's going to take you a longer time to do it, which means waking up earlier, which means that they're going to be more grumpy.
Make the morning fun for them. Sometimes going to bed early also helps a lot.
Try and encourage them and have them know that school is a fun and safe place to learn.
One day we just walked into a 5th grade classroom and we asked the kids, hey, if you were going to give tips to kindergarten parents to make sure that their kindergartners get out of the door and attend school, what would you say? And these kids were brilliant. They had all sorts of ideas, excellent ideas. And so we put together this video. We did another video that was similar where we asked kids, what do you think the importance of attending school regularly is, especially for kindies? And again, they were brilliant. So even if you don't have the ability to create a full-fledged video like this, you might want to consider just quick tips with students. You could shoot it on a cell phone and post it on social media. There are easier ways to go about this, but if you have the opportunity to look at this video later, or you could go to the Beaverton School District YouTube channel, it's there as well. So once school started, our messaging pivoted from kindergarten only to all grades with a focus on secondary, our middle and high schoolers.
It may seem obvious, but daily attendance is critical to your success in school. Showing up on time every day is really an investment in your future and an investment in you. Students who attend regularly are more likely to do well in the classroom, graduate on time, and achieve their goals beyond high school. Missing just 2 days a month, whether excused or unexcused, can have a negative impact on your grades, your long-term plans, and your relationships with teachers and classmates. Oregon law requires all children ages 5 to 18 to attend school daily. If you miss more than 10 consecutive days, you'll be unenrolled from BSD, and your parents or guardians will need to re-register you for class. There are many reasons students miss school, like experiences with bullying, staying home to watch a younger sibling, having to work, or having a physical or mental health concern. We know anxiety is real, but if you miss school and assignments start to pile up, that overwhelming feeling only gets worse. Whatever the reason for missing school, talk to your teachers, counselors, or parents so they can help. There may be a solution that you're not aware of. Counselors may be able to work out a different schedule or know of a program that could help you meet all of your responsibilities while still getting to school every day on time. Being here at school is extremely important, even when it's hard. You can do hard things, and there are people here to help.
Thank you. If we advance to number 2, our second strategy was to align our attendance campaign branding with our new strategic plan branding, which was belong, believe, achieve. Everything in our district is that catchphrase, belong, believe, achieve. So we wanted to develop a communications campaign that the two complemented each other without competing. So if we advance to the next slide, you'll see that our two campaigns, these are the logo on the left is our district logo, Belong, Believe, Achieve. And then the logo on the right is Belonging Begins Here. So that was the title or the catchphrase of our attendance campaign. And we wanted these two to work together rather than compete. One thing I might encourage you to do is we found it far more effective in developing something that felt BSD specific rather than adopting sort of a canned campaign. So I'd urge you to tie whatever branding that you have in your district to your attendance campaign, so that parents know that this campaign is for them. And can we advance the next slide? Our number 3 strategy was video. And here, heavily promote concepts of belonging and connection to students, parents, and staff through video. Video is a cornerstone of our district's communication strategy. We are fortunate to have a full-time videographer that works in my department. So we do a lot of video production. Next slide. So what we did is throughout the year, not just in the beginning of the year, but throughout the year, we were very intentional about highlighting opportunities for belonging in our school and intentional about introducing adults in our school, telling their stories, and so that students and families could make a connection with the adults they see every day. Our videos are distributed on Parent Square via social media and on our district website. And as you can see here, the views on these videos were quite good. Again, even if you don't have a dedicated videographer, there are ways to use video on a smaller scale in social media or find other ways to emphasize that concept of belonging and adult connection in your school. Next slide. Our fourth strategy was to educate students and parents on behavioral health and wellness supports available in our schools to help students struggling with anxiety and also to promote those resources to our parents. Next slide. So we created one-page handouts. I'm sorry, can you go back one? So we created some one-page handouts on different topics that could be downloaded from our attendance webpage. We also pushed them out via Parent Square and social media to educate our kids and our parents. This particular handout talks about anxiety and describes the supports that we have in our district to help students. Next slide. Here I just want to throw out a kind of bonus tip when it comes to social media. We posted on both the district's Facebook and Instagram accounts, but all 54 of our schools also have their own Facebook and Instagram account, which, to be honest, students and parents are more likely to follow them than the district, right? So we cross-posted on all 108 accounts to increase the reach of this campaign using a tool that's called Buffer. So in our district, that's a social media management tool that we use. You may have another tool in your district that you could use in order to get more reach on your campaign. Next slide. So how much did the entire campaign cost? Well, really, it was less than $1,500 that we spent on some recognition swag that we pushed out to schools. But if you account for staff time, it was probably more like $1,600. Next slide. So what did the results look like? We saw attendance gains at all grade levels. 8 out of our 13 grade levels achieved more than a 5% increase in their attendance rate. The biggest improvement that we saw was at kindergarten with an 11.2% improvement. School-wide, we had 32 of our 34 elementary schools had attendance gains, with 28 of them showing gains of 5% or more. At middle school, all of our schools had gains, with 5 out of 9 having a 5% gain or more. And at high school, all schools had gains with half showing a 5% or more improvement. So we were pretty pleased with that. Next slide. Of course, there's always lessons to be learned. This year is phase 2 of our campaign. We largely ran the same campaign for our kindergarten parents because we had seen really good results and because of course, we have a new crop of parents who have not heard that messaging before. The biggest change we made was at with our approach to secondary. We're making a concerted effort, especially on Instagram, to talk directly to students rather than parents about attendance. And we're incorporating a lot more peer-to-peer advice, hoping that that reaches that population. We've also reached out to some of our local businesses and asked them to provide incentives for our secondary students who make gains. So think free coffee, Jamba Juice, Chick-fil-A, that sort of thing. And so we've distributed those incentives throughout our middle and high schools. And then we also did like a deeper dive into the data. And what we saw was that our Latino and Native American student populations had higher absenteeism rates than average. So right now we're working with our multilingual department and with our Office of Equity and Inclusion around some specific outreach to those groups of parents, because we want to better understand what the barrier is for those groups so that we can try to address those later this year or in future campaigns. Next slide. Before I open it up for questions, I just wanted to point out a couple of resources. The first, if you haven't checked out this website, Attendance Works, it's a national website, really great resource for research and ideas. Secondly, I linked to the award submission that for our Belonging Begins Here campaign. It goes into a lot more detail than I was able to here on timelines and implementation, all the like nitty gritty. So you're welcome to look at that. And lastly, all the assets that we created for our campaign, the logo, the social media posts, videos, handouts, all of it is in a Google folder. You're welcome to use any of it, and there's certainly no need to credit the Beaverton School District. So take our logo off, slap yours on, we're fine with it. So next slide. And if just want to open it up if anyone has any questions.
Shelley, thank you very much. This is Scott. I know we said folks can use the chat function for questions, but I feel like at this point, if you have questions, just go ahead and throw them out there. I would, it strikes me again, and we knew this when we sort of analyzed your campaign, that there's a lot of districts in Idaho that don't have resources like you have with your team. And so to some degree, there's probably only a handful of districts in our state who might be able to tackle something to this degree. But when you boil everything away when it comes to resources and that sort of thing, difference in student populations, communities, that sort of thing, if there's just one sort of overall message that you would like everyone tuning in to kind of hear as the main takeaway from everything that you have done and learned, what would that be?
It all boils down to just one word, belonging, right? No matter how you communicate the idea to your families, we need to show students that they belong in our schools. They belong with us. They're one of us, and that there are opportunities for connection, not only with students, but with staff. So we approach that in a lot of different ways. But that's kind of the thing that strings everything together is that concept of belonging.
Hi, Shelley. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Thanks for the presentation. This is fantastic. I was wondering if you noticed a difference in your student survey data. Did that data reflect more of a connection to the school? And did you see any difference in that data? And then also as a follow-up, did you notice any changes in the climate and culture of your buildings? Did this kind of promote more of a sense of belonging at each building? And then how did that transfer into student engagement in the classroom?
Thank you for that question. And yes, when we looked at this past year's student data when in these belonging questions, we did see gains. And I think part of it was the attendance campaign, but also, we were introducing a new strategic plan this past year as well, where belonging is like the number one thing: belong, believe, achieve. And so we are very intentional about reminding people of that at every opportunity. So if you were to walk into any Beaverton school, you're going to see signage. You're going to see staff using that term. You're going to see administrators promoting that in their parent newsletters. You're going to see on social media us sort of, hammering that concept. We tag everything with hashtag belong, believe, achieve, and what I've noticed pleasantly is that when I'm out talking to students, or we have our videographer out interviewing students, we're starting to hear them use the terminology. And that's where I'm like, okay, it's getting through. We're making inroads. I wish you could hear the fifth graders in that video, because they're talking about connectedness at a fifth grade level. So I do think that this constant promotion of both the attendance campaign and the strategic plan is starting to make inroads.
Billy, it's education related. I think, as we all probably know, a lot of folks are super interested in all education matters this day and age. And sometimes I think in the communications business, we're sometimes a little surprised where we find critique and second guessing. Was there anything as you folks embarked on this that kind of surprised you in that regard?
Actually, there was. And we're still hearing it occasionally now, is that when we're putting out social media posts about educating folks and encouraging attendance, every now and then I'll get a comment from a parent about how we're encouraging people to send sick kids to school. And I'm like, no, that is not what we're doing here. Obviously, if you're too sick for school, stay home. But we've seen that crop up a couple of times. And so we've had to respond on social media and couple our too sick for school guidance with some of these messages so that people are able to differentiate. But yeah, I didn't see that one coming initially, but we've tried to counter it since.
I have one more question. Oh, go ahead. I already. Okay, I'm going to jump in. I know you had a slide on this, but I didn't write it down fast enough. So it looked like you had measured your impact in your outreach. Was there one avenue that you found more impactful? I know you did a lot of different social media and sent home messaging. Did you measure that outreach in any way so you could kind of identify the best path for outreach?
Yeah, we do. We keep track of all our social media analytics, and I'm just looking back. So when you combine, remember I was talking about the importance of using our school accounts as well, is that we had about a reach about a little over 300,000 and about 367,000 impressions and about 3,000 plus engagements. And so that was quite high. That was above our average. And we also put our video on our social media. So when we looked at what our most popular videos were for the entire year, we produce anywhere from 160 to 175 videos a year in our district. The ones that were rated at the top were these videos about adults in our school and their stories, which I found very interesting. And, we have amazing staff who have amazing backgrounds and amazing stories to tell. And the reason we tell those stories is we want our students to see themselves in the people that are around them. So that was very heartening to see that those were amongst our most popular videos.
Kelly, we back in May convened some administrators from around the state here at the department, a very similar uh, format to this call. And one of the things that we heard consistently across the board was um, their sense that a lot of parents got accustomed to the flexibility that we as an education community showed during COVID. Being able, kids missing class, being able to catch up on class, recorded lessons, that sort of thing. I'm curious, did you see, has that manifested itself in your district? And if so, is there a particular line of messaging that you feel like is or would be most effective in addressing that particular component of the attendance equation?
Yeah, we definitely saw that in the surveys that we did, that sentiment come through. And so it's kind of part of why we chose the tagline, belonging begins here. Not belonging begins in your living room or your child's bedroom, and it doesn't belong online. Belonging begins here in our buildings. And so one of our strategies, again, back to video, is our superintendent has both a written message at the beginning of the year and a video message. And we hit that point pretty hard in that superintendent message. And then we followed it up with another video. And again, all these are in that Google, there are links in the Google Drive and in that award submission that you could watch them. But it had sort of a voiceover of one of our administrators and scenes from inside the school talking about belonging begins here, but to belong, you need to be here. You need to be here every day. You need to be here to make connections with your fellow students, to make connections with your grown-ups, and that it's not the same as being online. So I feel like, yes, we heard that and that we sort of tried to address that that belief right up front.
Any other questions for Shelley?
And I apologize that our videos weren't able to be heard, but I would really encourage you to click on some of the links to those, because I think they'll give you a good sense of what our messaging entailed.
Yeah, and we have shared the link here in the chat to Shelley's resources. We actually also have them linked to the State Department of Education toolkit page.
Kindergarten is like
they are under additional resources there. Shelley, with your blessing, we'll put the slide deck up there as well. We had a question if that would be made available. So yes, we will add the slide deck to our SDE page under additional resources. The link to Attendance Works is also there. If you haven't had a chance to look at these, there's a fairly extensive set of we have audio, video. We have Superintendent Critchfield with a message, several messages to parents and others that you could use in social media. We have some draft letters and flyers that are meant to be sort of starting points to communicate out to your school communities. Some posters, an award certificate for being at school. And some of these, if you want to use them, great. If they spark creativity and better ideas in your school, that's great too. But there's just a lot of resources. And our goal here, our directive this summer in building this from Superintendent Critchfield was basically acknowledging that we have a communications team here at the department, and not everyone in our state does. And if we could build some resources that districts who might not otherwise be able to access something like this, that they can use at the school this summer and fall. That was our mission, to equip you all with the ability to message out the importance of attendance to your communities.
And I want to maybe just add that consistency of messaging, I think, is really important. So it's not enough to hit this once a week. You know, we picked a 2 to 3 month period where we were hitting it every other day on our various platforms. And then after those 3 months, we continue to kind of weave it in to other messaging that we did. So it would have been very difficult to be a parent in the Beaverton School District and not heard this. So, you know, it needs to come from the district. It needs to come from your administrators. It needs to come from your educators, and it needs to come often. So that's just a thought that I would leave you with.
Any additional questions? Last call. All right, wonderful. Shelley, I really appreciate you making yourself available. I know it's been a very, very busy day and you've got more coming in your afternoon. So we really appreciate it. And folks in Idaho, if you have questions, additional suggestions for us to continue building out our toolkit here at the Department of Education, don't hesitate to reach out. I will put my email here in the, well, you have my email from other communications, but I'll just go ahead and type it in here real quick. Don't hesitate to reach out and offer any suggestions. So we appreciate it. Shelley, any final thoughts?
It's doable. You know, like I think what we learned is by making this a focal point, a lot of other things fell into place. And we learned a lot of other things on the teaching and learning side. One that I forgot to mention, and I should have, was that one of the learnings was that all of our schools were not taking attendance in the same way. We weren't consistent from school to school. I know that's shocking that a school district with 54 schools doesn't have consistency. But no, we didn't have consistency amongst our schools. And so by focusing on attendance, that allowed our schools to get more aligned. And then, you know, we have continued to look at the data and see increases into this year with attendance. And also we see those areas for opportunity. Not all our kids are responding in the same way. And so we have some differentiated messaging that we're now working on as part of phase 2. So, but yeah, I mean, by shining a light, I think that attendance can be increased. And as we know, that impacts student outcomes.
All right. Thank you again. And everyone, thank you very much. We will be sharing the recording on our YouTube channel, the Department of Education YouTube channel. So if there are others in your school communities or professional networks who you feel like would benefit from seeing today's presentation, keep an eye on that. Don't hesitate to share. So thank you, everyone. Thank you again, Shelley. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.